After 50 years of age, your body starts to change in ways you often don't even notice at first. Maybe you've already felt it. It's a little harder to get out of bed. You get tired faster climbing stairs, or you need to steady yourself when standing. You chalk it up to the passage of time, to age, and you carry on. But what perhaps no one has told you is that you might be losing muscle mass, silently. We're not talking about strength for lifting weights. We're talking about the strength you need to live independently, to get dressed on your own, to walk without fear of falling, to keep being you. Today I want to tell you something that can mark a before and after in your life. We're going to talk about muscle loss in maturity, but more importantly, about how to stop it. It doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, or over 70. There is one specific, completely natural food that can help you preserve your strength, your balance, and your independence. And no, this is not about expensive supplements. You don't need extreme diets or hours at the gym. This food is accessible, easy to find, and you can start incorporating it today. You might even already have it at home, but you don't know how to get the most out of it. And toward the end of the video, I'll also tell you which common mistakes are speeding up muscle loss without you realizing it. So if you feel your body doesn't respond like it used to, stay with me. What you're going to learn today can help you stay strong and active for many more years than you imagine. Before we go on, I'd love to know something about you. How old are you? And from which country or city are you watching me? Tell me in the comments. I like to know who's on the other side of the screen, because this channel is for you. Let's begin. What is muscle loss, and why does it begin after 50? You may never have heard this word, but you might be living it firsthand. Sarcopenia. That's the name of the natural and often silent process through which our body loses muscle mass as we age. Most people start to notice it around 50 years old, although in some cases it can show up even earlier. It doesn't appear all at once. You don't wake up one day without strength. It arrives little by little, like someone tiptoeing in. One day you realize the grocery bags feel heavier than before. Another day, climbing the stairs is a bit harder. And without noticing, you stop doing it. Sarcopenia makes no distinctions. It affects both men and women, and it has nothing to do with whether you look fat or skinny. You can have a slim body and still be losing muscle. Nor is this about being fit to run marathons. It's about something more important, keeping the strength you need to live independently. Why does it happen? Because with age, our body begins producing fewer muscle proteins. Production of certain hormones that help keep our muscles active and healthy also declines. And as if that weren't enough, many people start moving less right at that stage, which further accelerates the process. And the most concerning part, because it's so gradual, you often don't realize it until it's already too obvious. Until you can no longer get up easily from a chair, or you need to push with your hands to climb a single step. Let's think, for example, about Laura, a 63-year-old woman. She was always active, or at least she thought so. She walked to the supermarket, cooked at home, cared for her grandkids. But over time, she started to notice that climbing stairs was harder. At first, she attributed it to being tired or having slept badly. Later, she began to avoid stairs. She took the elevator even if it was only 2 floors. She stopped bending down to pick things up from the floor. Her body was sending signals, but she didn't understand them. And that's what happens to thousands of people. They don't know they're losing muscle because no one told them. They only feel that they're not who they used to be. But here's the good news. It's not irreversible. If you understand what's happening, you can act. The key is to identify these early signs. Feeling that you have less strength, that your legs don't respond the same, that it's harder to move, is not simply getting old. It's an alert. And you're here today to learn how to answer it. Because yes, it is possible to grow older with strength. You just need to know how. The silent consequences of losing muscle. When we think about muscle, we often associate it with appearance. Looking stronger, more defined, more youthful on the outside. But what isn't said enough is that muscle loss isn't just about looks. It's about survival. Every time we lose muscle, we also lose something else: balance, energy, mobility, and over time, independence. At first, it's subtle. It's a little harder to lift a box. Your legs tremble when you stand for a long time, or you simply don't feel the same enthusiasm to go for a walk. You justify it. You say it was a bad day, that you're tired, that you don't sleep as well. But in reality, your body is beginning to weaken from the inside. And when muscle disappears, other areas of the body suffer with it. Your metabolism slows down. You burn fewer calories even at rest. This can lead to weight gain without an obvious explanation, or to insulin resistance, which increases the risk of type 2 diabetes. Your posture changes. As you lose back strength, your shoulders round, your neck tips forward, and joint and spine pain begin. Even your digestion can be affected, because the abdominal muscles also play a role in the digestive process. And let's not even talk about balance. Most falls in older adults have a common root: muscle weakness. But perhaps the most painful part is the gradual loss of independence. No longer being able to do what you used to do without thinking. Getting dressed, carrying a bag, stepping up a curb, bending down to tie your shoes. Simple things that, when you can't do them alone, hurt. And not just physically. I'm going to tell you the story of Julian, a 71-year-old man. For almost his entire life, Julian was a walker. He didn't go to the gym or do complex exercises, but every day he went out for a stroll around his neighborhood. He walked for half an hour in the morning, greeted the neighbors, breathed fresh air. Over time, he started to notice it was harder to get back home. He got tired sooner. His legs hurt. One day, after tripping on a loose paving stone, he fell to the ground. He didn't fracture anything, but something changed in him. He started to feel afraid of falling again, and that fear made him walk less. First, he stopped going out on cold days. Then he only walked to the corner. After that, he stopped going out. His family bought him a cane, then a walker. All of that happened in less than 1 year. The reason? The progressive loss of muscle mass, a loss no one saw, until it was too obvious. That's why it's so important to talk about this, because many people believe aging means accepting weakness, but it's not so. You don't have to resign yourself to losing your independence. And if there's one thing you should remember from this part of the video, it's this sentence: old age doesn't begin with wrinkles. It begins when we stop moving with strength. And you can still move. Why walking alone is not enough. For many years, we've been told that walking is one of the best exercises. And it's true. Walking is good. It helps the heart, improves circulation, clears the mind, and keeps the body moving. But here's an uncomfortable truth. Walking is not enough to preserve muscle after 50. I say this with respect because I know many of you go out walking every day. But it's important to understand the difference between moving and training the muscle. When you walk, you're in motion. You're using your legs, of course, but you're not challenging them. You're not sending a clear signal to your muscles that they need to stay strong. It's as if the body says, I do this effortlessly. I don't need to be more prepared than this. Over time, if all you do is walk, and you don't do any other kind of activity, your muscles adapt to the bare minimum. They become efficient, but also weaker. Many older adults say, but I'm active. I walk every day. And yet, each year they feel less strong, more tired, less balanced. A very common example is Teresa, a 68-year-old woman. She walks to the park every day, there and back. She feels good about staying active, and that's great. But recently she noticed that when she climbed a small hill on her street, she ran out of breath. Her legs trembled, and when she got home, she had to sit for quite a while before feeling recovered. That surprised her. She thought, how can that be? I walk every day. And there's the answer. Walking by itself does not work the muscles completely. It doesn't challenge them. It doesn't stimulate them to grow, nor to stay firm. Imagine this. If you have a muscle and you don't use it, you lose it. If you use it a little, you maintain it. But if you stimulate it, you strengthen it. And as the years go by, that difference becomes vital. I'm not saying you should stop walking. Not at all. Walking is a great habit. But if you want to preserve your muscle mass, you need something more. Small exercises that work your strength. Climbing stairs, standing up and sitting down from a chair without using your hands, lifting weight with bottles or packages. You don't need a gym. You only need the commitment to truly activate your muscles. Because the stronger your muscles are, the stronger you will be against the passage of time. And now I ask you, have you felt yourself getting tired faster than before, even if you're an active person? Tell me in the comments. I want to know how you're experiencing it. Which foods really help preserve muscle? So far, we've talked about how muscle loss can affect your life, even without you noticing. But there's something you should know. Just as there's a wear and tear process, there's also a repair process. And much of that process begins on your plate. Your body needs certain nutrients to keep muscle active, strong and functional. Without them, no matter how much you move, the body simply doesn't have what it needs to build or preserve. One of the most important nutrients is protein. Protein is the brick your body uses to build muscle. Without enough protein, your body cannot regenerate muscle tissue, and it starts to lose it day after day. Then there are omega-3 fatty acids, which help reduce inflammation in the body. This is key, because when muscle is inflamed or doesn't recover well, it weakens faster. Foods like oily fish, chia seeds and walnuts are excellent sources of omega-3. We also need vitamin D, which improves calcium absorption, protects the bones, and plays a role in muscle function. Lack of vitamin D is linked to weakness, falls, and chronic fatigue in older adults. And let's not forget vitamin B12, vital for energy, metabolism, and neuromuscular health. Many older adults are deficient in B12 without knowing it, and that contributes to a constant sense of weakness. Now, many people believe that to get these nutrients, it's enough to drink a protein shake. But the reality is more complex. Shakes can be useful in some cases, especially if you have difficulty chewing or a reduced appetite. But they can't replace a complete balanced diet. Plus, some commercial shakes have added sugars, artificial ingredients, and lower quality protein. This isn't about living on powder. It's about returning to real quality foods and understanding which ones truly nourish your muscles from within. And here a powerful concept appears: functional foods. What does that mean? They're foods that not only feed you, but fulfill a specific function in your health. They help prevent disease, strengthen systems, and in this case, protect your muscle mass. Including functional foods in your diet is like giving your body specialized tools. Not just any protein, but one your body can truly absorb and use. Not just any fat, but one that reduces inflammation and helps muscle repair better. And now that you have the context, we arrive at the most interesting moment of this video. What is that specific food that surprised me most for its power to stop muscle loss, even in people over 70? I'll tell you in the next part. The key food that stops muscle loss. And now, we reach the central point of this video. The food that surprised me most is not rare or exotic, but precisely the opposite. We've had it in front of us all along. That food is the egg. Yes, the egg, a food so everyday that it often goes unnoticed. But when it comes to preserving muscle mass, it's one of the most powerful that exists. And I don't say this only from personal experience. Scientific studies say it too. Eggs contain high-quality proteins, and not just any protein. They are complete proteins, meaning they contain all the essential amino acids your body needs to build muscle. But most importantly, they're one of the richest sources of leucine, an amino acid that plays a fundamental role in turning on muscle growth. Leucine works like a kind of switch. When you consume enough, it tells the body, it's time to repair and build muscle. And the egg doesn't just have leucine. It has a form that the body absorbs very efficiently. That's called high bioavailability. Here's a key detail. As we age, our body becomes less efficient at absorbing protein. That's why it's not enough to eat some protein. You have to make sure it's easy to absorb. And that's where the egg stands out again. The body recognizes it, processes it, and uses it easily, even in people over 70. In addition, eggs are accessible, easy to prepare, and very versatile. You don't need to be a chef to use them. You can boil them, make an omelette, mix them with vegetables, and in every form, they remain nutritious. To show you the real impact they can have, let me tell you the story of Mr. Ernest, a 76-year-old man who decided to make a small but consistent change. Ernest lived alone and ate just enough. A coffee in the morning, some bread at midday, and a soup at night. He had little appetite and not much energy to cook. He began to feel weaker. His legs hurt, he got tired faster, and he no longer went out walking like before. One day, his grandson, a nutrition student, visited him and asked what he was eating. After hearing him, he proposed something very simple. "Grandpa, I want you to eat 2 eggs a day. Just that. One for breakfast and another as part of lunch." Ernest agreed, a bit skeptical, but within a few weeks, he noticed something. He had more energy. He started getting up from the chair with less effort. He went back to walking to the store. And most importantly, he began to feel that his body responded again. It wasn't magic, it was nutrition. Small changes like this, sustained over time, can make a big difference. And if you're wondering whether you can do something similar, the answer is yes. Of course, as long as you have no medical restrictions with eggs, such as allergies or specific indications, they can be one of the most effective tools to care for your muscle strength at any age. How and when to eat them so they work. We already know eggs can be a great ally for preserving your muscle strength, but now comes the most important part: how to eat them correctly so they truly work. Because it's not just about eating them, it's about giving your body the conditions it needs to take full advantage of their benefits. Let's start with the first question. How many eggs should you eat per day? If you're over 50 and you don't have medical restrictions related to cholesterol or liver problems, the ideal is to eat between 1 and 2 eggs a day. This amount covers a good portion of your needs for high-quality protein and leucine without overdoing it. An active person over 60 or 70 can benefit greatly from 2 eggs daily, split between breakfast and lunch, for example. Now, the time of day also matters. Your body has a greater capacity to utilize protein in the early hours of the day after you've gone many hours without eating. That's why including an egg at breakfast can be an excellent decision. It helps reactivate your metabolism, provides energy, and helps prevent morning muscle loss, which is more pronounced in older adults. But beyond when you eat them, what you pair them with also matters. Ideally, combine eggs with foods rich in fiber and healthy fats, such as whole grain toast, avocado, sautéed or steamed vegetables, seeds like flax or chia. These combinations not only add more nutrients, but also help keep blood sugar stable and improve the absorption of certain vitamins. And here's something few people know. There are combinations that can reduce the positive effect of eggs on your muscles. A very common one is pairing them with coffee and sugar. Coffee itself isn't the problem, but when we drink it immediately after a protein-rich meal, it can make it harder to absorb some nutrients, especially if it's very strong or we mix it with sweetened milk. It's also not a good idea to pair eggs with ultra-processed foods like white bread, cold cuts, or boxed juices. These products inflame your body, load you with sugars or harmful fats, and can cancel out part of the positive effect you're seeking. So, how can you incorporate eggs into your day without complicating things? Here are a few simple ideas. Hard-boiled eggs at breakfast with a slice of whole grain bread. A vegetable omelette at midday. Scrambled eggs with olive oil and cherry tomatoes. A leafy green salad with boiled egg at dinner. The important thing is that you don't have to change your entire diet. You just need to be consistent with one small, healthy habit. And that habit can be as simple as adding a couple of eggs to your day, at the right time and in the right way. Because sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful. And now that you know how to eat this food so it works, let's talk about something just as important. The foods that may be silently sabotaging your muscles. Foods that destroy your muscle without you knowing. So far, we've talked about what you should add to your diet to stop muscle loss. But just as important, and often ignored, is knowing what to remove. Because there are certain foods that, without you noticing, may be sabotaging your body from the inside. They do it little by little, day after day, until one day you realize you no longer have the strength you used to, and you don't know why. Let's start with ultra-processed foods. These are products that come in packages, have a long list of ingredients you don't recognize, and usually contain trans fats, preservatives, colorings, excess sodium, and added sugars. All of that creates silent inflammation in your body, and that inflammation directly affects your muscles. When your body is inflamed, it spends more energy fighting that internal irritation. As a consequence, it starts breaking down muscle tissue to get quick energy. In other words, what you eat may be destroying your muscle mass without you knowing it. A second big enemy is excess sugar. We're not only talking about the obvious, candies, pastries, or sodas, but also the sugar that hides in common products. Flavored yogurts, breakfast cereals, boxed juices, and even commercial breads. Excess sugar deregulates your insulin levels, increases the accumulation of visceral fat, and accelerates muscle aging. Then there are foods that seem normal, but aren't. For example, sugary drinks, even light ones, can affect your metabolism. White breads, made with refined flours, they provide no fiber or nutrients and spike your blood sugar. Processed meats like sausages, deli cuts, or processed ham, they contain poor quality fats, nitrates, and preservatives that inflame and damage muscle tissue over time. And here's the most dangerous part. These effects are not noticeable immediately. You don't eat a sausage today and lose strength tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. But when you spend months or years eating these products regularly, the damage accumulates, day after day. And one day you realize it's hard to climb a flight of stairs. Your legs tremble. You wake up tired, even if you slept well. It's not just age. Many times it's what you have, or haven't, put on your plate for years. And here's the most important reflection in this section. It's not only about what you add, but also what you remove. You can eat the best foods in the world, but if at the same time you keep filling your body with inflammatory products, the positive effect is lost. It's like trying to fill a bucket with water while there's a hole in the bottom. So start little by little. Maybe you drop white bread and switch to whole grain. Maybe you remove cold cuts from breakfast and try eggs. Maybe you stop drinking artificial juices and choose water with lemon. Every small decision adds up. Muscle also trains without a gym. One of the most common and most mistaken beliefs is that to keep muscles strong, you need a gym, machines, or complicated routines. The truth is very different. Your muscles don't need huge weights. They need to be challenged. And you can achieve that perfectly at home with simple exercises adapted to your level. It doesn't matter if you're 60, 70, or 80. You can always start. And the best part, you don't need to leave your house or spend money. Let's go with some concrete examples. First, sitting down and standing up from a chair. This simple exercise is one of the most complete to activate your legs, glutes, and midsection. You just sit in a sturdy chair without armrests, then stand up using the strength of your legs, without pushing with your hands. Do it slowly, about 5 times at first, then increase little by little. Second, stepping up and down. If you have stairs at home, you can use the first step to go up and down slowly, controlling the movement. It's excellent for strengthening legs, knees, and ankles. Third, using bottles as weights. 2 small water bottles can become your best allies. With them, you can do arm exercises. Lift them slowly to the sides, to the front, or overhead. Do it sitting or standing, whichever feels safer. Fourth, wall exercises. Lean against the wall and do gentle push-ups with your arms to strengthen your chest and back without risk. You can also stand with your back to the wall, bend your knees slightly, and hold for a few seconds. That activates your postural muscles. These exercises won't take more than 15 minutes a day. The important thing isn't how much you do, but that you do it every day. And here's the secret: consistency. You don't have to do it perfectly, nor do you need many repetitions, but you do need to make it a routine, like brushing your teeth, like drinking water, because your body needs that stimulus every day to keep muscle active. Here are a few simple tips to maintain consistency. Do it at the same time every day as part of your daily routine. Put on music you like in the background. Track your progress in a notebook, even if it's just 2 more repetitions. If you can, do it with someone, your partner, a friend, or even by following a video. Remember, this isn't a race, it's a habit. And if one day you feel tired or low on energy, think about this. Every time you choose to move, you choose to live better. Because movement is life. And as long as you can move with strength, you can keep doing what you love, freely, and without depending on anyone. Myths about growing old and becoming weak. One of the greatest enemies of health in old age isn't in the body, it's in the mind. For decades we've heard phrases like, "At my age there's no point in exercising. After 70, everything goes downhill." Feeling weak is normal, it's part of growing old. And the worst part is that many people end up believing it. They give up without having tried. They assume weakness, fatigue, and dependence are inevitable. But that's not true. Muscle doesn't understand age. It understands stimulus. Yes, it's true that after a certain age, the body responds more slowly and building muscle can take longer. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. Muscle can be maintained and even regained at 70, 80, and beyond. It only needs 2 things: proper nutrition and constant movement. And it's not just us saying it. Studies confirm it. Adults over 70 who began simple programs of training with light weights showed notable improvements in strength, balance, and quality of life in a few weeks. They weren't athletes, they weren't young, they were ordinary people, like you. Think about the case of Angela, a 79-year-old woman who for a long time thought weakness was part of the natural process of aging. Every time someone talked to her about exercising, she replied, "At this age, I barely have the strength to walk." But one day, her granddaughter suggested a simple routine: sit down and stand up from a chair 5 times in the morning. Just that. At first, Angela could barely do it. She gripped the armrests, she complained, but she stuck with it, day after day. By the 3rd week, she could do it without help. After 1 month, she started climbing the stairs in her house without stopping. Her face said it all. She felt capable again. And that is the true gift of regaining muscle, the feeling of power. Another example is Rudolf, an 82-year-old man who suffered from back pain and constant fatigue. He didn't want medication and had no interest in going to the gym. He started by changing his breakfast. He added eggs, some oats, and stopped drinking sugary beverages. He also began doing arm exercises with water bottles. In 2 months, he felt steadier, more stable, and in better spirits. It wasn't magic. It was a decision. Because the truth is this: it is never too late to regain strength. Never. Your body is wiser than you think, and if you take care of it, it will respond. The key is to leave behind the beliefs that tell us we're too old to improve, because it's not age that weakens you. It's giving up before you try. And if you're watching this video, it's because you haven't given up. What can change if you act today? You've made it this far. You've listened carefully to how muscle is lost in silence and how it can also be regained. Now it's time to imagine what would happen if you decide to act today. When you strengthen your muscles, even with small changes, what happens isn't only physical. You start living with more energy, more stability, more safety. Falls decrease. Back pain begins to lessen. You feel more eager to go for a walk, to do the things you enjoy, to rely on yourself. And that, independence, has no price. You get up in the morning with a different attitude. Not because you've rejuvenated by 20 years, but because your body begins to respond again. You climb a step without fear. You carry a bag without pain. You feel strong, and that changes your way of being in the world. Your mind changes too. Yes, because physical strength feeds emotional strength. When you feel capable, you trust yourself again. You dare to do more. You feel in charge of your life again. Now imagine the opposite. Living passively. Accepting that each day you move less. That each day you depend more on others. That you can no longer go to the park or the market or prepare your food without getting tired. That's not just a more fragile life. It's a smaller life. But you can choose something different, and you don't have to change everything at once. One small decision today is enough. Maybe it's adding an egg to your breakfast. Maybe it's standing up from the chair 5 times without using your hands, or walking 10 minutes more than yesterday. What matters isn't how much you do, but that you start. Because when you take a step, even a small one, your body listens, and it responds. And it will respond even better if you give it what it needs. Real food, intentional movement, enough rest, and above all, your commitment. Not for aesthetics, not for vanity, for dignity. Because having strength isn't just about muscle. It's a form of respect for yourself, for what you can still do, for the life you still have to live. And that life, your life, can continue to be strong, free, and full, if you decide so. Today we walked an important path. We talked about something that's often ignored or accepted with resignation, the loss of muscle mass with the years. But now you know it's not an inevitable destiny. You know that weakness, fatigue, falls are not simply things of age. They are signs of a body that needs to be cared for, fed, and moved with love. You learned that muscle doesn't maintain itself, but it also doesn't demand great sacrifices. That a food as simple as the egg can make a difference. That moving every day, even from home and without equipment, can be the most powerful medicine. And that there are foods that, although tasty or convenient, are weakening your body in silence. You also discovered that age is not a limit. That at 70, at 80, even at 90, you can still regain strength, vitality, and dignity. Because this is what's at stake. Your ability to live on your own, to get up without help, to walk without fear, to stand with confidence. And most importantly, you don't need to do it all today. You only need to begin. One small decision, a more nutritious breakfast, one exercise when you get up, a daily intention to take a little better care of yourself. Your body listens and responds. Remember this, it doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, or 80. As long as you keep breathing, you can improve. Each day is a new opportunity, a new way to choose yourself, a new way to tell the world and yourself that you haven't given up on living with strength. And now I want to hear from you. Which point impacted you the most? Which food do you think is missing from your diet? Tell me in the comments below. I'd love to read you, to know where you're watching from and how you're facing this moment in your life. Remember, knowledge changes nothing if it doesn't turn into action. And today can be the first step toward a stronger, more vital, more free version of yourself. See you in the next video.